Okay, Nate, let's move on to the last question, which I can't wait to hear your answer for this. What's the difference between center based and home based therapy? Is one better than the other?
This is a, a question that I think really has two halves to the answer. The first half of the answer is yes, one is better than the other. The second answer is no, neither is better than the other. Let's talk about why one is better than the other. Home-based therapy is better than center-based therapy when you have targets, when you have goals that need to be worked on in the home, or maybe a little bit more generally, when there are community-based targets. Things like being able to navigate purchasing, going out, buying fast food or stuff at the mall. That's a skill that we need to learn in order to be functional adults. So when you have a child who is 13, 14, 15, where they're coming up to the point where they are going to be adults very soon, we need to be looking at getting them out into the community. And sometimes we can do that based on the clinic, and sometimes we need to be looking at more in the home environment, in their home neighborhood, to help them do that, which means that session will probably also happen at home. If you have sibling interaction, things that you can work on, then clearly that should be in the home preferentially. Where clinic-based tends to be, where clinic-based is better than home-based, we have found, again, looking at our research, looking at our data, children who are receiving therapy in the clinic learn about twice as fast. What that means is that every hour of therapy delivered in the clinic, they master about twice as many exemplars, twice as many skills as they do in a non-clinical setting. The other part that can be very productive about the clinic, and a part of what seems to drive that greater learning outcome, is that we can control the environment in our clinic better. It's often easier to contrive situations where a child has to use a certain skill to get access to something, and in particular where they come into contact with strangers, where they come into contact with people that they don't know really well. Having mom or dad or brother or sister working with them is enormous. They need to know how to do that, but they also need to know how to deal with people that they don't know well, which might mean if a new therapist joins the team, there's a new face for them to practice on. Each venue for therapy has its own strengths. Exactly what that balance is going to look like, whether that child should be right now purely in the clinic, purely in the home, or a mix of the two, that's a piece that's going to be very individualized. And in that sense, neither is better than the other. They're each tools in our toolbox, and how we use them, how we're going to maximize the benefit of each environment, that's something that the supervisor, that the BCBA on the case will work with you, work with your family to figure out.
And I just want to throw in there, Nate, and then we're out of time. We've kept you longer than we were supposed to. But I just want to throw in there too that for many years it was all home based. That was the only kind of therapy that you could get. And if you were smart, you took your kid out into the community with your therapist and did that. And now we're seeing a big shift that a lot of providers are going to center based. And we hear from some parents who are like, oh, I don't want to do center based because they want to stay at home. I just want to give credence to what you said, that there are some things that need to be worked on at home. There are. But there are so many things for a language learner that can and should be worked at the center based. And a study that CAR did showed that kids, and I know as a parent this is devastating to hear, but kids will learn 80 to 85% more at the center. So for anybody who's waffling and going, oh, I only want to do home based, I just want to say to you, you're missing out. I mean, I look at it that my son did 5 years of intensive ABA, and if we had had the option of center based, by the statistics, we could have accomplished what we accomplished in 5 years in 3 years. Do you know what I would do? What I wouldn't do to have those 2 years and have had him at the point that he was 2 years later, 2 years earlier? Oh my goodness. So I just want to put it out there to families. Don't because of a fear and because of a loss of control, and it does feel like a loss of control, we'll do a whole show about that another time, but don't cut your child off from that good progress that happens at the center. That's my 2 cents. Anything you want to add, Nate?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. The whole point here is let's make these children as healthy as they can be. Let's help them be as successful as they can be. Which
Amen
means
to that.
anything that we can do, we should be talking about. We should be looking at working as a team to make that happen.
Absolutely.